You shouldn't let Jin Bin's men go. Watching Wesley's leaving figure, Frank failed to shoot after all. He turned his head to look at Lu Chuang, and said with a blank expression, Jin is not trustworthy. The people who work with him usually do not end well. This Russian Ross is enough to prove it. To improve his persuasiveness, Frank pointed to Vladimir's cool body. Lu Chuang scratched his hair. But I killed this Russian Ross. It doesn't seem to have anything to do with Jin. Silent Frank was silent. He forgot about it. At this time, Wade suddenly said, I heard it just now. The total is 5 million USD, and our 55 points are 205. Lu Chuang said lightly, there is no 205, the 5 million USD belongs to my personal harvest. No. Are you serious? What is true or false? This is my private commission reward. We agreed at the beginning that the reward is to be shared equally, not the reward. Definitely does not include the 5 million USD. Without my superb acting skills, that little Four Eyes wouldn't be fooled at all, and you have no chance to increase your salary. Fart. I'm obviously relying on my fluent eloquence to deceive. I want to come. Wade was so angry that his lips trembled, and he immediately pulled out 2 katanas. You little guy who is blind to money, draw your gun, I will fight you. Lu Chuang drew out his 2 guns viciously. You shameless old man, come to cheat me, an 18-year-old young man, with hard-earned money, okay? Seeing that the 2 were about to fight suddenly, Frank was exhausted physically and mentally. It seems that their internal strife just now was not completely fake. There is no need for others to sow discord in this kind of team. I am afraid they will split themselves first. Street a few hundred meters away. Wesley looked behind with lingering fear, and was relieved to find that the 2 guys hadn't followed. 10 minutes later, a black Cadley slowly pulled up to the side of the road. When Wesley walked into the car, he saw Jin Bin sitting in the back seat. His huge figure almost filled the entire car. He held a cane in his hand, and rubbed the top of the cane unconsciously with his fingers. Great gem. After seeing Wesley coming, he asked calmly, tell me, what's going on? It was the Asian man. He found a companion to help, and then attacked us pretending to be caught. His marksmanship was terrible. Before I had time to see clearly, he killed everyone, and... Speaking of this, Wesley's face looked very bad. He and that companion seem to have some kind of special ability. Even if they are shot in the head, they can't die, and their wounds only took less than a few seconds to fully heal. Excellent self-healing speed. There was a trace of surprise on Jin Bin's face. This kind of ability is not something that normal people can possess. Soon, he thought of mutant. That race with all kinds of strange abilities. For Jin Bin, mutants are not uncommon. He has also seen many mutants with strange abilities, but he has not seen a few mutants that can't be killed even if they are shot. Jin Bin pondered for a while, and slowly ordered, try to block the news of Vladimir's death, and before Mrs. Gao and Mr. Shin react, send someone to take over Vladimir's remaining territory. As for the mercenary, all previous arrangements for him have been temporarily cancelled. Now that Vladimir is dead, no amount of insiders and evidence has become meaningless. Send someone to pay attention to his news. Perhaps, he will be a good partner. Clear. Without Lu Chuang's oppression, Wesley finally regained his right-hand man appearance. Looking at Hell's Kitchen outside the window, Jin Bing looked calm. This place is sick. The virus has penetrated the ground completely, and the disease is incurable. Only completely destroyed. In order to regain new hope. After a heated discussion. After Lu Chuang offered to give up 20% of the salary, Wade finally left satisfied, and he was going home to find Vanessa to work. Lu Chuang and Frank also left the room and walked down the street. At night, looking at Frank who exudes scarlet luster under the street lamp, Lu Chuang felt that it was really a bit pervasive. Well, don't you feel uncomfortable with so much blood? Not uncomfortable. Frank's face was flat, as an executioner with blood on his hands, he didn't care about it at all. Lu Chuang struggled and said, but I feel uncomfortable watching it. Why don't I change your clothes for you? Where did you get your clothes? Frank frowned. He didn't see Lu Chuang brought clothes. It's easy, follow me. Lu Chuang smiled confidently, and then turned into an alley. Frank hesitated for a while, and then walked in. Soon, they saw a few unscrupulous punks appearing in the alley. The other party seemed to have also noticed their figures, but due to the weather, they didn't notice Frank's horrible bloodstains. Seeing only 2 people walking in, they smiled maliciously, swayed their bodies and walked over, and took out a very threatening knife in his hand. However, before they got close, Lu Chuang skillfully raised his pistol and pointed it at the gangsters who randomly spawned from the alley. I'm announcing good news. You have been robbed. Stand obediently in a row and let our fine brother choose clothes. As he said that, Lu Chuang suddenly turned his head to look at Frank. By the way, do you need underwear? Frank. Silent punks. Silent according to the statistics of a lawyer who did not want to disclose the name. In Hell's Kitchen, a criminal activity occurs every 10 seconds on average. Here, crime has become the norm like breathing. This kind of crime rate is out of the ordinary even in the world. The reason for all this is because of the rampant local gang organizations. Almost all criminals in Hell's Kitchen are members of gangsters, and 90% of criminal activities must be related to gangsters, especially the battle between gangsters, which has always occupied the largest crime rate in Hell's Kitchen. Although the police intend to curb the frequent occurrence of various criminal activities, as long as they fail to solve the root cause of the gang for one day, mobilizing more police forces will be futile. With the passage of time, not only has the crime rate in Hell's Kitchen not been resolved, but new criminals have emerged one after another, making the residents of Hell's Kitchen miserable. Ever since, a street hero stood up. Matt Murdock, who did not want to reveal his name, was standing on the roof of a low building, listening to the sounds around him. By day he is an eloquent lawyer. At night, he turns into Daredevil to fight crime on the streets of Hell's Kitchen. It can be called the master of time management in the new era. Different from the suit and leather shoes during the day, at the moment Matt was wearing a dark red leather tights. The hood with 2 small horns completely covered the eyes, and no one could see the exhausted face under the mask. Color. Yesterday, he and Fudge's office received a new case, and they needed to run around during the day to collect information. And the recent Hell's Kitchen is also uneasy, especially the Russian Ross gang seems to have become extremely active for some reason. In line with the idea of preventing crimes from happening, Matt has been searching for intelligence information about the Russian Ross people for several days, so that he not much rest time at all. Even with physical fitness far beyond ordinary people, Matt began to feel a little overwhelmed. As usual, Matt stood in the most active area of the Ross gang in Russia, using his radar-like perception ability to hear all the sounds around him, so as to filter out useful information. At this moment, Matt suddenly heard some voices coming from the alley 2 streets away. It sounds like a passerby has been robbed. Matt didn't have any hesitation, and immediately jumped over the roof with both legs, and jumped down into the alley. What do you think of this dress? Green looks very eco-friendly. This one is also good. The tight tank top can fully show your muscular contours. Look at this one again. It has a piggy pattern on it. Let alone, it looks quite similar to your current face. At this moment, the atmosphere in the alley was extremely strange. I saw a few gangsters standing in a row with their backs against the wall, posing in various weird poses under the streetlights, showing themselves like a model. And Lu Chuang is like a salesperson introducing clothing styles in front of the models, and giving customers his own valuable suggestions with his own aesthetic vision. As a customer, Frank put on a cold look. Obviously, this is a rational consumer, and it is not easy to get money out of his pocket. Silent for a moment, Matt wondered if there was something wrong with his sensory ability. The scene in front of him seemed to be somewhat different from what he had imagined. A good crime scene. How come it looks like a Victoria's Secret? Who is there? Come out. Sensing the movement behind him, the indifferent customer Frank suddenly turned his head to look at Matt's position. Hearing this, several pairs of eyes instantly looked at Matt. To be honest, even when facing a group of criminals back then, Matt was not in such a complicated mood as he is now, and he always felt like he was disturbing other people's good deeds. But soon, Matt smelled a strong smell of blood emanating from Lu Chuang and Frank. He was 100% sure that it was definitely the smell of human blood. Especially Frank, Matt could smell an extremely strong smell of blood very clearly, radiating from his body towards the surroundings. The bloody smell was so pungent that he almost suffocated. At least a dozen people have to be killed to accumulate such a strong smell of blood. Matt's heart sank, and he immediately marked the 2 people in front of him as dangerous people. He took out a short metal stick from his waist, walked forward slowly, and asked in a low voice, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" Frank. Silent, how should he answer this question? Could it be that he was tricked by Lu Chuang to rob the gangsters of their clothes? It's him, the red demon that roams the night. As in Native of Hell's Kitchen, the gangsters immediately recognized Matt's identity. One gangster even cried out to him, "Help us, we were robbed by them." This Asian guy not only threatened us with a gun, but also wanted to they took our clothes and asked us to pose in strange poses. Before he finished speaking, the gangster was kicked to the ground by Lu Chuang's family planning kick. The rest of the gangsters immediately shut up, for fear that they would end up in the same end. Silent Matt didn't try to stop them. He could smell the smell of a small amount of drugs on the gangsters, which was very consistent with the smell left in this alley. It was obvious that they were doing some illegal things before that. Sensing the gun in Lu Chuang's hand, Matt frowned slightly, and the short stick was ready to go. He faced Lu Chuang and asked again, "Tell me, who are you guys and why are you here?" Pure passerby. Lu Chuang spread his hands, and he also recognized the daredevil in front of him, to be precise, the identity of Lawyer Matt. The voice sounded familiar to Matt, but the change in the heartbeat frequency of the other party quickly interrupted his thoughts. According to the sound of the heartbeat, Matt clearly heard that the other party was lying, and shook his head. "No, you definitely didn't happen to pass by so simply, you must have other things." In this regard, Lu Chuang's attitude is very firm. "I am an honest person, I never lie, we just passed by." If anyone pays attention to Lu Chuang's eyes at this time, they will find that his pupils are constantly zooming. At the same time, the heartbeat soared to 400. Boom boom boom. The heart rate keeps changing, eventually forming a cheerful rhythm. Matt's face changed for a while. In the end, he covered his heart with a pale face, gritted his teeth and said, "This time it's ode to joy. So it's you." You may not notice it the first time, but now, Matt is basically sure that Lu Chuang can freely control his heart rate. Otherwise, it is difficult to explain why the heartbeats heard twice will have a strange musical rhythm. Even if Beethoven himself is resurrected, his heartbeats will not jump out of the ode to joy in the Symphony of Destiny. Thinking along this line of thought, the reason why Lu Chuang controlled his heartbeat twice is very clear. It was obviously targeting him on purpose. In other words, the other party has long known that he has the ability to hear the heartbeat, so every time he eavesdrops on the heartbeat, he controls the heartbeat frequency to interfere with himself. But the question is, when was he exposed? Matt's face was a little ugly. He and Lu Chuang had only met once, but the other party seemed to know everything about him, even the identity of Daredevil. You know, he has never revealed that he is Daredevil to anyone, not even his closest friend Fudge. "Leave here." Matt yelled at the punks, and he didn't want them to hear the rest of the conversation. Seeing that the red demon helped them block the two big villains, the gangsters immediately felt relieved and nodded their thanks again and again. Then they were very loyal and did not forget to drag the half-dead gangster to leave. "Leave his clothes and pants," Lu Chuang said lightly. Hearing his words, the gangsters trembled instinctively. Being loyal, they took off the clothes and pants of their good brother without saying a word, even the underwear. They did not forget the words Lu Chuang mentioned, for fear that Lu Chuang would find an excuse to keep them here again. Throwing the three-piece suit at Frank's feet, they dragged their good brother and ran away. Silent looking at the yellowed briefs, Frank didn't say a word. After the gangsters left, the atmosphere in the alley froze. Seeing Matt, who was suddenly silent, Lu Chuang smiled and broke the silence first. "What's wrong, Lawyer Ma? Are you feeling unwell?" Anyway, there was no one present, so Lu Chuang didn't bother to call out titles. "My surname is not Ma," Matt corrected. "Good Lawyer Ma." Silent as a devout Catholic, Matt has good qualities. After a moment of silence, he slowly said, "How did you know my identity?" "It's a long story. One time I saw a blind man walking into an alley with a cane. As a good young man in the 21st century, I definitely wanted to go over to see if he needed help." Lu Chuang is no longer himself in the research institute. He calmly shared the story he just made up, and then asked, "In the end, guess what I saw?" Matt didn't speak. He had already guessed that the blind man the other party was talking about was himself. Lu Chuang narrated vividly in a tone of feigned amazement. "I saw this blind man run suddenly, good guy. He ran faster than me with both eyes open, and then he put away his crutches and jumped straight when he got up. He jumped several meters high, and by the way he split a fork in the air. He twisted his hips a few times at random, and then climbed over a high wall. Finally, he pushed the whole person up with his buttocks. Easily climbed to the top of the roof. Anyway, Lu Chuang was also the author of a street novel. These words are enough to show his profound writing skills. Hearing Lu Chuang's description, Matt knew that he was probably witnessed by the other party when he ran to fight criminals without having time to change his clothes. This explains how Lu Chuang knew his identity. Only, why is his climbing action described so wretchedly? Moreover, he has never split in the air. Out of prudent considerations, Matt did not directly believe Lu Chuang's words, but adopted his usual method of listening to the heartbeat frequency of the other party to judge whether he was lying. Boom boom boom. Very well, this time it's Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. Matt was silent for a few seconds, decisively blocking his perception ability. Abandoning the plan to judge lies, Matt said in a deep voice, "Then how do you know about my ability? It's so fresh. A blind person can fly over walls. He must be able to hear far beyond ordinary people. Isn't Li Qing a good example?" Lu Chuang jumped up and down while talking. Matt frowned, moving his head from side to side following Lu Chuang's movements. "What are you doing? No way, can you really hear it so clearly?" Lu Chuang looked at Matt in disbelief. In some ways, this perception ability is stronger than bullet time. After all, bullet time requires the use of eyes to observe, and Matt's perception ability does not need eyes at all, and can perceive all actions around him. Definitely, the bullet time is mainly stronger in the reaction ability, which Matt is definitely incomparable to. Matt was a little speechless, and said in a serious tone, "You are right, my hearing is indeed better than ordinary people, and I can feel all your movements, so I advise you not to." "Mr. Lu, please put down your middle finger," I said. "I can feel it." Lu Chuang put away his fingers in embarrassment. "It's nothing else, I'm just curious to try." Matt didn't dwell on this topic, but took a step forward with a sense of oppression. "I remember you said that you live in Brooklyn. You shouldn't be in West Midtown at this time. I hope you can tell me the truth. What is your purpose for coming to West Midtown tonight?" Lu Chuang spread his hands, grabbed two pistols and said sincerely, "We didn't do anything, we were really just passing by. If you don't believe me, you can listen to my heartbeat to see if it is lying." Matt naturally wouldn't believe this, but he didn't eavesdrop on Lu Chuang's heart rate. He was afraid that he would listen to all Beethoven's music in one night. "Then tell me, what's the matter with the bloody smell on your body, and what did you do before?" "Sorry, this is a personal matter, no comment." Lu Chuang didn't bother to make up lies, and his face looked like I wouldn't tell if I was killed. Although Matt couldn't see his expression, he could clearly feel Lu Chuang's refusal attitude. Matt shook the short stick in his hand tightly, and said in a low voice, "Mr. Lu, please don't force me. You don't want to do it, do you?" Lu Chuang clasped his arms around his chest and shook his legs, arrogant like a villain. "I advise you to take care of yourself. Now you are only one person, and we have two people here. You will suffer a lot if you fight." Matt's tone was a little helpless. "Your companion left long ago." "Are you kidding? You're trying to trick me into turning my head around and sneaking up on me, a young man. This low-level trick has long been outdated, right, Frank?" However, no one responded to his words. "Frank?" Lu Chuang suddenly had a bad feeling. He turned his neck stiffly. As expected, there was no Frank figure behind him. Only a pair of yellowed briefs remained in place, and the top and trousers were all missing. At this time, Matt explained from the side. "While we were talking, the strong man had already left with his clothes on." Lu Chuang. Silent while observing Lu Chuang, Matt also did not ignore the bloody Frank. Fortunately, Frank does not have the freedom to control the frequency of his heart like Lu Chuang. Therefore, Matt can clearly hear Frank's heart rate, which is stronger than ordinary people. Combined with the information obtained by other sensory abilities, Matt can be sure that Frank is definitely a powerful fighter. Although Matt could feel that the opponent was injured, he still wasn't sure of victory. With Lu Chuang in front of him, he really didn't have enough confidence to keep two people at once. But Frank chose to leave, which gave Matt a chance. Although I don't know the specific reason, it was because of internal conflicts or other conspiracies, but Matt didn't take action to keep Frank, but let the other party go. In Matt's view, as long as Lu Chuang is left alone, he can still get the information he wants to know. If there is any problem at that time, he can find the other party's companion through Lu Chuang. After scanning the alley several times and confirming that Frank really left, Lu Chuang couldn't believe it. No way. What about America's iron-blooded tough guy? How can a tough guy leave his teammates and sneak away? Most importantly, he also wanted to see Frank in that piggy suit, and if possible, take a few photos as souvenirs. Lu Chuang couldn't accept this fact for a while. To be honest, the image of Frank in his heart is a little bit broken. It was obvious that the other party was a tough guy who could wipe out the entire gang with a pistol some time ago. It's just a few days since I haven't seen him. Why did he suddenly learn to sell his teammates? Lu Chuang analyzed it carefully, and finally came up with the most reasonable answer. Definitely influenced by Wade. Frank touched Wade tonight, so even Frank, the tough guy, has become abnormal. Otherwise there is no explanation for Frank's sudden change. Yes, it must be like this. As the only normal person around Wade, Lu Chuang felt that his pressure was much greater. Feeling the hotter gaze behind him, Lu Chuang turned his head to look at Matt, showing an awkward yet polite smile. Well, I think we can sit down and discuss it slowly. Why don't I give you a fork? Let's forget about it. Matt didn't respond. He didn't want to listen to such perfunctory words, and he didn't want to watch the other party split. He wanted to figure out the identities of Lu Chuang and Frank, and what they did. The current Hell's Kitchen can't stand any trouble. If they are allowed to continue to behave in Hell's Kitchen, it will be a trouble for the entire Hell's Kitchen. Seeing Matt's attitude so resolute, Lu Chuang sighed. Well, since you want to know so much, then I'll tell you. Just when Matt thought Lu Chuang was going to tell the truth, Lu Chuang suddenly pointed behind him. Look. There's a flying saucer. Silent Matt didn't turn his head. After all, he couldn't see the flying saucer. Lu Chuang didn't care whether he believed it or not. After shouting this sentence, he turned around and ran away. Matt sighed lightly, and the short stick in his hand was released instantly, and hit Lu Chuang's back with a whoosh. Boom. Accompanied by a gunshot, the bullet accurately shot down the short stick. Matt was startled when he heard the voice. Within the scope of his perception, he can clearly perceive that Lu Chuang fired this shot while running, and it is not easy to shoot with such accuracy under such interference. Without hesitation, Matt ran after him and picked up the short stick on the ground. Whoosh. Faint tearing air sounds struck, and the running Lu Chuang turned his head to look up to the left, only to see a short stick shot towards him. While the pupils were zooming, Lu Chuang stretched out his arm and firmly grasped the short stick. However, unexpectedly, an iron chain was connected to the end of the short stick, and a force instantly came from the iron chain, forcibly stopping Lu Chuang's pace, and at the same time pulled the short stick out of Lu Chuang's hand, and returned to the owner along the iron chain hands. In the darkness, a red demon with pointed ears stood on the rooftop. If it wasn't for the completely different color and shape, Lu Chuang would have thought that he had traveled to Gotham City with simple folk customs and met the throat cancer patient. Batman. Lu Chuang looked up at Matt and tried to persuade him. Lawyer Ma, I think it's getting late, so you should go home and go to bed quickly. You have to get up early tomorrow as a migrant worker. Have you earned enough for this month's living expenses? This is the downside of identity exposure. The image of superhero, which is full of mysterious charm, suddenly turned into a poor worker who struggled for a living. Matt couldn't help feeling sad when he thought that he would have to get up early tomorrow morning to sort out the case with Fudge. Lu Chuang's words went unanswered. Accompanied by the sound of the chain, the red figure fell from a height like a steel wire, and the riotous figure rushed towards Lu Chuang. His speed was so fast that ordinary people could not react at all. But Lu Chuang had already started the bullet time, and he had a panoramic view of Matt's movements. The moment Matt jumped down, Lu Chuang raised his right arm and smashed Matt's cheek with the butt of the gun. Boom. The butt of the gun was blocked by Matt's arm, and then with a sudden force from his waist, he hit Lu Chuang's shoulder sideways with a whip kick, and kicked Lu Chuang directly to the wall with huge amounts of force. Lu Chuang snorted, and his back felt a little numb. Not paying attention to the pain, Lu Chuang saw Matt throwing the short stick at him again. He immediately raised his double guns, fired at the short stick to change its direction of movement, and at the same time several bullets hit Matt. Bang bang bang. Matt perceived Lu Chuang's movements in advance, and his speed was naturally not as fast as the bullets, but he was able to judge the trajectory of all the bullets based on the muzzle of the gun, and moved quickly to avoid the incoming bullets. At the same time, approaching Lu Chuang at an extremely fast speed as a set of close-quarters bunt. This skill. At the moment Matt gave Lu Chuang the feeling that although his strength was far inferior to that of Mutant Gina, his fighting skills were much higher than that of Mutant Gina. He could use all kinds of moves at his fingertips, and his movements were extremely fast, leaving no chance for Lu Chuang to breathe at all. Every attack is forcing Lu Chuang to dodge, making it difficult for Lu Chuang to escape from his attack range. Lu Chuang could only avoid Matt's violent attack like a storm by maintaining the bullet time uninterrupted. The most troublesome thing is that Matt's perception ability can easily capture his movements. Whenever he raises his pistol, Matt will focus on attacking his arms and try to shoot down the pistol in his hand many times. Gun. Lu Chuang got a little tired of hiding, and said viciously, "You forced me." Hearing his words, Matt immediately became alert. In his opinion, Lu Chuang's identity is quite mysterious, and it is very likely that he is hiding some kind of method that he does not know. Jingle. In Matt's induction, a cylindrical object suddenly fell from Lu Chuang's body, making a slight jetting sound. Smoke bomb. Matt had a guess in an instant, but he didn't take it seriously. Smoke bombs can seriously affect the enemy's line of sight, but for him, the effect of smoke bombs is basically zero. Wait. What's with the smell? Matt suddenly noticed something strange. He could smell something wrong with the smoke. Seem especially smelly? Oops, it's a stink bomb. Matt didn't even have time to hold his breath, and his super sense of smell became a burden at this time, and an unpleasant smell lingered in his nose. After passing through his sense of smell, the smell was directly magnified several times, making Matt almost spit it out. But the smell is not the point. Matt is more worried about the effect of the stink bomb. You must know that high-efficiency anesthetics or hypnotic ability agents are usually added to stink bombs to make people lose their ability to move or simply lose consciousness. Matt is not sure whether the sip he just inhaled will cause negative effects. Matt immediately stabilized himself to prevent himself from falling suddenly. However, after a few seconds, he found that his body still hadn't changed. In the air, there is only the horrible stench that has not dissipated. Just when Matt was puzzled, Lu Chuang smiled triumphantly, and asked with a grin, "Lawyer Ma, this is a delicacy from my hometown, a stinky tofu-flavored smoke bomb. How do you feel?" It turns out that this is not the smell of stink bombs, but stinky tofu. The corner of Matt's mouth twitched. This is not a snack. Why would someone be so bored as to make smoke bombs into flavors? And it smells so stinky. Are you sure this is edible food? Knowing that it wasn't a stink bomb, Matt's tense nerves instantly relaxed, resisting the extremely stinky smell, and the attack that had slowed down became violent again. Lu Chuang dodged hastily for a few times, and said angrily, "Shame on your face, don't you eat my trick." Jingle. Another smoke bomb fell from Lu Chuang's body, spouting thick smoke. Matt thought it was another stinky tofu-flavored smoke bomb this time. As a result, an extremely strong smell of rancidity suddenly came to the tip of his nose. Lu Chuang did not forget to introduce triumphantly, "This is a specialty of a place in my hometown, a smoke bomb with a bean juice flavor." "What kind of food do you eat in your hometown?" Matt felt a little sick to his stomach. Two different smells came together and cooked a new dish through his sense of taste, stimulating his sense of smell crazily. But it's not over yet. Just a few jingling sounds, and then several completely different but stinky smells poured into Matt's poor nasal cavity like a tide. It's durian, bean juice, hot and sour powder, canned herring. Following Lu Chuang's familiar introduction, Matt finally couldn't bear it anymore, and immediately ran to the corner and opened his mouth. As if the yellow river was flooding out of control, he vomited out all the contents of his stomach, and even though there is no time to care about the sound of footsteps. Sweet and bitter, mixed feelings, this moment. This devout Catholic believer seemed to see his God. Mr. Lu Xuan once said that all ways to make money are written in a small notebook. Lu Chuang agrees with this sentence very much. In just one night, he earned a total of $6 million after excluding the part of the money that was distributed to Wade. It was a number he had never thought of before. After receiving the final payment of $3 million from Jin Bing, Lu Chuang immediately found Weasel and bought a large amount of firearms and ammunition without stopping. When Weasel saw the long list, he was so scared that he was almost speechless. After Lu Chuang repeatedly assured that he was not planning to attack the White House, Weasel reluctantly accepted this huge order. Due to the large quantity, Weasel could not deliver all the goods in a short period of time, so Lu Chuang could only choose to collect them in batches. The earliest batch of goods only took a few days, and the latest batch took several weeks to arrive. And in the process, Lu Chuang discovered a very important problem. That is, he doesn't have enough room to put these things down. Although there is still some space in the apartment that can be used, Lu Chuang does not want to make the place where he lives so crowded. Besides, there are so many firearms and ammunition at home, which will be somewhat inconvenient. He can't follow a large pile of firearms and ammunition. Live your life. Ever since, Lu Chuang had the idea of changing places. At the beginning, he wanted the safe house of Weasel because it was cheap, and because he wanted to avoid Francis. Now that he has solved both problems, and still has a huge sum of money in his hand that he can use casually, he naturally has nothing to worry about. He doesn't have any memories of this apartment belonging to the Weasel. Just do it. On the fourth day after receiving the final payment, Lu Chuang came to Queens, next door to Brooklyn, based on the online house sale information. Arriving at the designated location, Lu Chuang saw a low-rise house that was much larger than the Weasel's apartment, with a sign for sale. According to the brand's phone number, Lu Chuang contacted the owner and explained his purpose of coming. When he heard that Lu Chuang was here to buy a house, the other party readily agreed to his request for viewing the house and drove over quickly. Not surprisingly, the homeowner is a bald, middle-aged man. "Sir, I promise that my house will not disappoint you, please come in with me." The bald man greeted him warmly, and then took Lu Chuang into the house for a tour, and at the same time introduced various advantages of his house to Lu Chuang. I have to say that the interior decoration of the house is really good. It can be seen that the bald man has a good vision. Most of the furniture in the house is brand new, with everything that should be there. According to the bald man's explanation, this house was originally renovated for him and his wife to live in together. Who knew that he found out that his wife was having an affair outside, and then divorced in a fit of anger, so he made this newly renovated house public. Make a sale. The bald man is strong, as can be seen from the uncontrollable smile on his face. Lu Chuang probably guessed the reason. It is estimated that the woman's cheating saved him a sum of expensive alimony directly, and he can use this money to enjoy himself freely. Old America featured. In short, after looking around for a few times, Lu Chuang is quite satisfied with the house. Especially the warehouse in the basement and the garage connected to the house. The warehouse in the basement can store the pile of firearms and ammunition, and the garage can be transformed into his workshop as a place for transforming firearms and ammunition in the future. Frankly speaking, I like this house very much, but the price is too high. Lu Chuang tried to bargain. 875,000 United States dollars, the price is already very low. No one has lived in this house since it was renovated. You can see that the furniture is brand new, and no one has touched it at all. The bald man heard the words immediately argued. You're right, but I don't have that much money, so let's make a discount. I'll give you a broken bone, okay? The bald man kept a smile on his face. I'm sorry, I've lost a lot of money. How about this, I'll give you all the furniture, and you don't need to buy new furniture. Lu Chuang was unmoved. If you give me a change, I can consider paying in one lump sum. If you are willing to pay in one lump sum, I can give you a small change. How about 870,000? Wipe a change, 800,000. Silent. The bald man's smile froze, and he directly wiped out 70,000. Why the hell didn't you grab it? For this price, the bald man obviously couldn't accept it. After some intense discussions, the two finally reached a consensus. Lu Chuang needs to pay 850,000 United States dollars in one lump sum, and the bald man not only has to give Lu Chuang all the furniture in the house, but also has to bear the transaction tax for both parties. The gang dealt. However, Lu Chuang did not sign the contract immediately, but out of caution, he found a professional lawyer to look at the contract. As for professional lawyers, needless to say, it's definitely Matt and Fudge both. Not long after, Fudge walked into the room and smiled at Lu Chuang. Mr. Lu, we meet again, and I am very happy to serve you. Seeing that Matt's figure did not appear, Lu Chuang couldn't help asking curiously, isn't Lawyer Ma here? Lawyer Ma? Fudge was taken aback, and then realized. Oh, you are talking about Matt, he seems to be a little unwell recently, and he has no appetite for anything, So he has been resting at home these days, but please rest assured, there is absolutely no question of my professionalism. Hearing Matt's recent situation, Lu Chuang raised his eyebrows. Hasn't he recovered after so many days? Lu Chuang felt a little regretful that he didn't see Matt's tragedy with his own eyes, and nodded to Fudge. Then I will leave the rest to you. Okay. Fudge accepted the contract and instantly entered the state of a lawyer. It is convenient to have a professional lawyer. Lu Chuang does not need to go to see it by himself. Fuji will explain the terms of the contract one by one to help him quickly understand the responsibilities and obligations implied by the contract, including the legal consequences of violation. Due to the different conditions of the country, many terms Lu Chuang didn't know. After confirming that it was correct, Lu Chuang finally signed the contract, and finally had a home that truly belonged to him. In order to express his gratitude, Lu Chuang invited Fuji to eat at a nearby Chinese restaurant. Although Lu Chuang felt that the taste was not very good, Fuji enjoyed the meal. After all, Chinese restaurants are changed according to the tastes of foreigners like them. Before leaving, Lu Chuang specially packed a portion of stinky tofu for Fuji to take back. This is Lawyer Ma's favorite Chinese delicacy. You can take it home and give him a taste. When did he like to eat this kind of thing? Fudge frowned and looked at the stinky tofu. If he hadn't seen the waiter take it out of the kitchen with his own eyes, he would have wondered if it was taken out from somewhere. Lu Chuang said cheerfully, he told me secretly. I guarantee that he will have a big appetite after seeing it. Then I thank you for Matt. You are welcome. The next day, Lu Chuang settled the matter of moving. It was said to be moving, but in fact it was mainly to deal with the pile of guns, ammunition and materials in his apartment. To be honest, it is indeed a headache to transfer so many things, and if the police are attracted, it will be in big trouble. Fortunately, Weasel has a way. Lu Chuang invited a reliable professional team, and it took half a day to successfully transfer everything to Lu Chuang's new home, including the motorcycle that was brought in from Francis. At the same time, Lu Chuang's first shipment arrived. Among them is Lu Chuang's long-awaited sniper rifle, which is the legendary Barrett M82A1 anti-materiel sniper rifle. The performance of this famous anti-materiel sniper rifle naturally needs no further explanation. For Lu Chuang, who has a super high school level sharpshooter, this sniper rifle with a maximum range of 2,500 meters fell into his hands, which is like adding wings to a tiger. Confidence can solve Gina in a short time. However, Lu Chuang felt that such power was not enough. If the opponent is hiding inside the building, surrounded by thick walls, even Barrett may not be able to do anything to him. So the best solution is to wipe out the buildings and the enemies together. This kind of power is enough to be called a large caliber weapon. So, he carried Barrett into the garage and made some changes to Barrett. In the morning, Lu Chuang opened his eyes and found that he was lying in the garage and fell asleep. Picking up the phone to check the time, it was already 7 o'clock in the morning. Looking at the half-finished Barrett on the work table, Lu Chuang couldn't help sighing. I have to say, this thing is much more fun than the game. I made it all night without knowing it. No wonder Tony Stark is so obsessed with his steel armor figures. Speaking of this, Lu Chuang suddenly remembered his achievement task and felt a little melancholy. So far, he has no clue about his high-tech battlesuit, and Tony Stark's steel battlesuit seems to have been upgraded for several versions. If this continues, he may face anti-Hulk armor. Lu Chuang looked at the unlocking conditions again. Open black lens bracket. Defeat Iron Man. Tony Stark's steel battlesuit with a high-tech battlesuit made by myself. 0/1. Close black lens bracket. A high-tech battlesuit built by yourself. Lu Chuang pondered. It seems that I didn't say that I need to invent a new high-tech battlesuit, but that I make it myself. That is to say, as long as this high-tech battlesuit is made by me, it can be regarded as a high-tech battlesuit I made myself? If this is the case, the difficulty is indeed reduced a lot at once. After all, the profession is completely wrong, and it is basically impossible for Lu Chuang to create a high-tech battlesuit out of thin air. But here comes the problem again. If he wants to create a high-tech battlesuit by himself, he must be assisted by a very professional technician. It's similar to playing with Lego blocks when I was a child. If you want to assemble it, you must at least have an instruction manual for the installation steps. Otherwise, there are so many parts that you don't know which piece goes with which piece. In the end, it will only be a semi-finished product with 4 different shapes. However, where would he find such a technical person who knows how to make a high-tech battlesuit, and most importantly, the high-tech battlesuit made by the other party must have the ability to defeat Tony Stark's steel battlesuit. Lu Chuang recalled carefully, in addition to Tony Stark's steel battlesuit, he does know several powerful high-tech battlesuits, such as Ant-Man's battlesuit that can freely expand and contract the body file size, Black Panther's a battlesuit compiled by vibranium. And finally there's the supervillain from the second Iron Man movie, who can also make steel battlesuits. These high-tech battlesuits have the ability to resist steel battlesuits. It's just that the people who made them are either out of reach, or have weird personalities and are hard to get in touch with. If you want to find these people to assist you in making a high-tech battlesuit, the possibility is basically 0. Forget it. The big deal is that I will find an opportunity to steal their blueprints, and then find a technical staff willing to assist me in making the battlesuit. Well, that's it. Lu Chuang secretly made up his mind to ignore the problem of the high-tech battlesuit, and he will find out this technical person. The requirements for this technician are not small, at least the level of knowledge cannot be much lower than that of the manufacturer, otherwise it will be embarrassing if the other party cannot understand the blueprint. With a new plan in mind, Lu Chuang walked out of the house, intending to go out and find a place to have breakfast. As soon as he went out, Lu Chuang suddenly heard a sound of quarreling, which came from the opposite house. I saw a dispute between a beautiful woman and a black young man. They both held onto the courier box tightly and refused to let go, and a little boy was curled up behind the woman. The scared expression on his face was obviously frightened. Lu Chuang walked over without thinking too much. This is obviously my courier. The name on it. Damn it. This is my thing. I told you to let it go. Do you hear me? The black youth noticed Lu Chuang's arrival, and his tone became more and more anxious. The movements of his hands became even more insipid. He grabbed the express box and shook it violently a few times. This woman's strength was no match for a grown man, and she was thrown to the ground by this force. Aunt May. The little boy sobbed softly, grabbing the woman with his little hands and trying to lift her up. Seeing this scene, Lu Chuang still didn't know what happened. Stealing deliveries is a folk tradition in America. The courier industry here is not as popular as in his hometown. Many couriers leave the couriers at the door of their homes, so they often attract some guys who like to pick up cheap couriers, and these thieves who steal couriers are called porch pirates. Among all forms of crime, being a porch pirate can be said to be easy and comfortable. After all, they can easily make a quick sum of money with their little hands, and they don't need to risk the risk of burglary. Earn money. The black youth was clearly a porch pirate. However, his luck seemed to be unlucky. He happened to be caught by the homeowner while stealing the courier. And the black young man is obviously illegally illiterate or a stunned young man who has just debuted. It's fine if he is found out, but he still wants to steal the courier. He turned the theft into a robbery. This IQ is no one. The woman fell to the ground. The black youth grabbed the express box and was about to run, but found that Lu Chuang was standing in front of him. Immediately, he took out a knife and waved it wildly, yelling viciously, "Get out of here, Asian guy." Good guy. Just upgrade to robbery with a knife. Is this guy rushing back to prison to pick up soap? Boom. Lu Chuang didn't bother to talk nonsense about this kind of random refreshed punk, and directly kicked him with a family planning kick. Looking at the black young man whose eyes were gradually glazed over, Lu Chuang sighed helplessly, feeling that he was going further and further down the path of Thanos. On the other side, the beautiful woman had already stood up, dragged the little boy over, and thanked her repeatedly. "Thank you so much for helping me stop this bastard." "It's okay, just a little busy." Seeing Lu Chuang's young appearance, and the fact that the other party helped her just now, the woman had a very good impression of Lu Chuang, and said with a warm smile, "You are the new resident who moved in a few days ago. It's May Parker, the owner of this house, and it looks like we'll be neighbors in the future." As she spoke, she pushed the little curly-haired boy to the front. "This is my nephew Peter Parker." Little Peter sniffed, and whispered to Lu Chuang. My name is Peter. Thank you for saving Aunt May." "Peter Parker?" Lu Chuang raised his eyebrows, the name sounds familiar. Glancing at this woman named May, Lu Chuang suddenly realized, isn't this kid with a nose bubble the future little Spider-Man? Representatives of the poor rely on variation. However, The current little Peter looks only 7 or 8 years old, and there is still a big difference from the little Spider-Man in Lu Chuang's memory. It seems that the other party is still a long time away from becoming a superhero. In other words, little Spider-Man seems to be a top student. His IQ is considered to be among the best in the entire Marvel world, so he should be able to make a battle suit, right? Lu Chuang narrowed his eyes slightly, and said cheerfully, "Little Peter, I think you have great potential as a superhero. You have to work hard, your aunt will need your protection in the future." Little Peter is also at the age of a child and is in the Zhong period. Seeing the big brother who defeated the bad guys at once say this to himself, he sucked his nose excitedly at that time. Can I become a superhero? Definitely yes, as long as you read more. Read more? Yes, reading can accumulate enough knowledge, and knowledge is power. Lu Chuang is like a deceptive demon, teaching little Peter. Knowledge can enrich people's thinking and make people smarter. After we acquire knowledge, we only need to think about it to solve many problems that we didn't know before. Problems, but more importantly the skills to apply the knowledge. Little Peter was confused and asked, "What is the skill of using knowledge?" Aunt May smiled and did not interrupt them. In her opinion, Lu Chuang's words were just under the guise of a superhero, trying to encourage little Peter to study hard and improve every day. What a kind and good person he is. For example, through the knowledge you have learned, create a super battlesuit that can go to heaven and earth, and put lightsaber and beam rifles in it, so that you can become a real superhero. Like him, the bad guys won't dare to bully you anymore. Lu Chuang pointed to Black Youth as an example. Black Youth. Silent, is it necessary to use something like a lightsaber to deal with me? Google. Little Peter swallowed, imagining himself as a superhero, wearing a super battlesuit to defeat bad guys. Immediately afterwards, he couldn't wait to ask, "But, what should I do to create a powerful super battlesuit?" This is simple. I have a set of superhero crash methods here, which are very effective. Lu Chuang blushed without panting, and opened his mouth to talk nonsense. First of all, we have to lay a good foundation and expand your knowledge reserve. Otherwise you won't even be able to understand the blueprint, let alone make a super battlesuit gone. Drawing? That's not the point. The point is that you need to have a goal. The genius inventor Tony Stark knows? Yeah, I know him. He can make circuit boards at the age of 4, an engine at the age of 6, and graduate with the highest grades from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology at the age of 17. He is a genius in the whole world. He can achieve such achievements. It's all thanks to his smart brain and rich knowledge reserves. Lu Chuang looked at little Peter, and said with an encouraging tone, "In my opinion, you already have a smart brain, so now you just need to reserve enough knowledge, and I believe that one day in the future, you will overtake Tony Stark and be smarter than him." Little Peter understands that he lacks knowledge reserves, and he can't make a super battlesuit, nor can he be a superhero. He asked anxiously, "Then what should I do?" Lu Chuang showed a sincere smile. "It just so happens that I have a sea of question tactics from the mysterious East here. You are still young, so we don't need to be too anxious. At the beginning, let's do 1,000 exercises first." Aunt May. Silent, why does she feel that Lu Chuang seems to be playing for real? "I'm going to do exercises, I'm going to make a super battlesuit, I'm going to be a superhero." Peter Parker, who was only 7 years old, shouted with high spirits and raised his arms. Until Aunt May picked him up and threw him into a car parked by the side of the road. "Peter, you can take your time to become a superhero, but you have a more important task now, which is to go to school quickly, or you will be late." "I see, Aunt May." Aunt May did not suppress little Peter's unrealistic ideas. Anyway, they are all children's naive fantasies. If little Peter is really willing to learn, she would be too happy, and how could she take the initiative to dampen the child's interest? Aunt May turned to look at Lu Chuang. She remembered that she did not know the name of this new neighbor. "My name is Lu Chuang, just call me Lu." Lu Chuang laughed. "All right, Lu. There is something I want to trouble you with." Aunt May pointed to the black young man who collapsed on the ground, and said, "I called the police, but it took a while for the police to arrive. I'm worried that he will do something crazy." "Understood. I'll give you a few more kicks to make sure he won't get up before the police arrive." Hearing Lu Chuang's words, the face of the black young man pretending to be dead turned black. Oh no, it got even darker. If this kicks his Achilles heel a few more times, there are only two possibilities. Either he will not be able to get up in the future, or he will not be able to get up in the future. Aunt May was also taken aback, and quickly waved her hands and said, "No, no, you misunderstood. I mean, can you stay here for a while, and wait until the police come?" Lu Chuang was a little disappointed. "Well, I'm fine, but don't you really think about my suggestion? I think this guy is quite vicious, and when the time comes, robbery with a knife might be upgraded to robbery and murder. If he wants to resist, kick him." The black youth lay on the ground and continued to pretend to be dead. He couldn't get up, and no matter who called him, it didn't work. Definitely, no one at the scene paid attention to him. Aunt May is a talkative person, and chatting with Lu Chuang was quick. Not long after, a police car drove in, and 2 white police officers got out of it. They looked at the 2 people who were chatting, and then at the black youth lying on the ground with pain on his face. Without further ado, directly arrest the black youth who did not make any resistance. A white policeman said to Aunt May, "Madam, please rest assured that we have arrested this vicious gangster." Black youth. Silent as expected of an American police officer, with such precise eyesight, he can immediately determine who is a criminal. Lu Chuang sighed secretly, and then he and Aunt May cooperated with the police to make a simple statement. Without further investigation, the black youth was taken into the police car by 2 police officers, and Aunt May did not stop, and thanked Lu Chuang again. After that, she drove little Peter to school. Lu Chuang returned to his house, opened the iron gate outside the garage, and took out the motorcycle from inside. He's going to have breakfast. By the way, buy exercises for little Peter. It has been a week since Lu Chuang moved into his home. In addition to Lu Chuang himself, he has recently added a permanent member to his family. That is little Peter from Aunt May's family. After that shot, Aunt May visited once because she wanted to say hello to her new neighbor. This is not referring to Lu Chuang, but Lu Chuang's parents. When Aunt May knew that Lu Chuang was still a high school student, she definitely thought that Lu Chuang was living with her parents. As a result, after Aunt May came to visit, Aunt May found out that Lu Chuang lived alone. According to Lu Chuang, his parents are no longer in this world. After knowing that Lu Chuang has no parents, Aunt may have thought of her little Peter, or because of the sensibility of a woman, so she invited Lu Chuang to her home for dinner several times, and Lu Chuang was not polite, and continued to chat for several times. After a meal, he took advantage of the opportunity and gave the collection of exercises he bought to little Peter in one go. After going back and forth, the 2 sides quickly became acquainted. Especially little Peter, who often came to play with Lu Chuang. Aunt May has no objection to this. After all, she has a good impression of Lu Chuang. Although she sometimes says something strange, she is generally a trustworthy young man. Moreover, she is really busy at ordinary times, and she has no time to accompany little Peter at home, and little Peter has no friends of the same age to play with. She is worried that if little Peter continues like this, his personality will become more and more withdrawn, which will make him and Lu Chuang more contact as a good thing, as long as Lu Chuang doesn't find it annoying. Regarding Aunt May's concerns, Lu Chuang patted his chest and said there was no problem. As a result, little Peter can often be seen having fun at Lu Chuang's house. "What's in here?" "Inside," little Peter asked, pointing to the closed door of the garage. These days, he often saw Lu Chuang walk into the garage and stay there for hours, and he could hear various strange sounds coming from inside from time to time. He was very curious about what Lu Chuang was doing inside. Lu Chuang sat on the sofa, drank Happy Fat House water, and said casually, "That's Superhero's studio." Little Peter blinked, seemingly unresponsive. A few seconds later, he asked with a blank expression, "So, you are a superhero?" Lu Chuang did not speak, but showed a mysterious smile. Seeing Lu Chuang acting like a master, little Peter instantly recognized that Lu Chuang is the kind of superhero hidden among ordinary people in comics, and immediately jumped up excitedly. "Oh my god! You were actually a superhero. No wonder you were able to defeat that villain last time." "Little Peter, you know, in the eyes of superhero, that kind of bastard is nothing at all." Lu Chuang curled his lips in disdain, grabbed the toy gun that had been prepared by his side, raised his hand seemingly casually and fired. Little Peter took a closer look and saw a suction cup bullet firmly stuck to the wall. There are still 5 meters away from the flying darts target next to it. Silent little Peter fell silent suddenly. Noticing little Peter's suspicious gaze, Lu Chuang said cheerfully, "Go over and check the bullets." The bullet just stopped at a height within the reach of little Peter, and little Peter walked over obediently, and pulled out the suction cup bullet with some difficulty. The next moment, little Peter stared wide-eyed, looking at the sucker in disbelief. "I saw a fly stuck on the suction cup, and it was still alive. It looked like a bullet just hit the fly flying in the air and fixed it on the wall." "Okay, that's great. Is this your super ability?" Seeing such a miraculous scene, the little Peter was stunned, and he was convinced of Lu Chuang's superhero status. "Definitely not super ability." Turning off the bullet time of the same lock, Lu Chuang said righteously, "I can have such a super high shooting technique, relying on hard work and ability, both are indispensable." Little Peter's eyes flashed gold. "Then can I also learn such a powerful shooting and become a superhero?" Ahem. Lu Chuang almost spit out the coke in his mouth. "You are the future Spider-Man. What do you learn to shoot? Do you want to kill the villain with one shot and leave work early?" He quickly stabilized his emotions, and continued to maintain the face of an expert. "As I said, hard work and ability are indispensable. With all due respect, I don't see the ability to shoot in you." Hearing that he didn't have the ability to shoot, little Peter was a little disappointed, but then Lu Chuang spoke again. "Although you don't have the shooting ability, I see other abilities in you." "What ability?" There was a turning point in the matter, and little Peter was suddenly excited. Lu Chuang didn't answer, but suddenly asked, "Have you finished the exercises I gave you a few days ago?" The little Peter was crying for a moment. "No, there are too many questions, and I only did half of them." "Half done." Lu Chuang was a little surprised. He specially bought the pile of exercises according to the difficulty of little Peter's age. He just wanted to stimulate the other party's desire to learn, but he didn't expect little Peter to do it. "It seems that I still underestimated the IQ of little Peter." Little Peter is young, but after several days of observation, Lu Chuang can see that this child is very smart. Especially in Peter's eyes, since he was a child, Lu Chuang saw the most innocent yearning for knowledge. Although the other party was only fooled by him, Lu Chuang was deeply moved by this innocence. He felt he had to do something for the kid. Although there are many versions of Spider-Man, judging from the performance of each version, Spider-Man is a genius-level existence, and its IQ is definitely higher than most people. For such a genius, age does not become an obstacle to their acquisition of knowledge. Take a look at Princess Shu Rui in Black Panther. She can manufacture various high-tech equipment and weapons in her teens, and also serves as Wakanda's chief scientific advisor. Her technological level is not weaker than that of Tony Stark. Definitely, this is not to say that Tony Stark's IQ is not as good as that of a little girl, but in comparison, Sue Rui was born in Wakanda, the world's top technological power, so her vision and knowledge are naturally much wider, and she may make missiles in the eyes of the other party. The difficulty is about the same as making an engine. In the same way, Lu Chuang believes that as long as little Peter improves his foresight and knowledge, he will soon be promoted to become a technological genius. After he becomes Spider-Man, he will be a superhero who can truly stand on his own, instead of just living in the shadow of Iron Man, the little Spider-Man underneath. Lu Chuang was so excited that he couldn't add more excitement. He made up this story so much that he believed it himself. For tool people. Ah no, for future superheroes. He is willing to devote himself to education and become an excellent gardener. Let's start with cultivating little Peter first. Very good, it seems that you already have the basic requirements of a superhero. Lu Chuang nodded in relief, and said, "Remember what I said before, I said that you have a smart brain. Maybe you can't shoot a precise bullet, but you can make a bullet with your own knowledge. A super battle suit that can automatically aim, and this is your real ability." Tony Stark made engines at the age of 6. Your little Peter started making super battle suits at the age of 7. He drove a spaceship to explore the universe at the age of 10. He drove a Gundam to beat Thanos at the age of 15. You had to tell Tony Stark about his achievements. Stark was scared to death on the spot. Although little Peter didn't know what Gundam was, and he didn't know who Thanos was and why he wanted to hit him, but it didn't prevent little Peter from fantasizing at all, and a trace of saliva slowly flowed from the corner of his mouth. All the motivation for people to live comes from desire, and the same is true for learning. After repeated hints from Lu Chuang, in little Peter's heart, becoming a superhero and making a super battle suit have already been equated. To become a superhero, you must first make a super battlesuit. After a long time, little Peter finally regained his senses from the fantasy and struggled. But, I can't think of how to make a powerful super battlesuit. Don't worry, I have a solution for this. I will find you a blueprint for making a super battlesuit in a few days. Lu Chuang narrowed his eyes and patted little Peter on the shoulder. But, first of all, you have to understand the blueprints, such as physics and chemistry, right? Well, I have prepared 30 pieces for you. You don't have to be polite to me, just take and read the textbooks and exercises that weigh more than a kilogram. 30 caddies. Little Peter was dumbfounded. He was smart enough to know the weight of this unit of mass. This is more than half of his weight. Lu Chuang straightened his face. Little Peter, you have to know that becoming a superhero is definitely not an easy task. You have to learn more from my strengths, such as hard work and persistence. But 30 caddies is too much. What are you thinking? It's not for you to learn it all at once. These books are all advanced. Now you just need to start from the simplest basics, and then frantically brush up the questions. If you don't understand the questions, just read the books and understand them. Just keep writing questions. Seeing Peter's terrified appearance, Lu Chuang comforted him. You have to remember that knowledge is power. Whenever you learn something new, it means that you become stronger. You can imagine this process, the training process of becoming a superhero. After you complete all the training, it means that you have become a real superhero. Lu Chuang's words really made little Peter feel better. He swallowed hard, his voice trembling. I want to be a superhero. Well, but there is one thing I want to remind you. Only the two of us know about this matter. My superhero identity must never be revealed, and the superhero training process must also not be revealed, understand? Understood. Little Peter nodded. Lu Chuang grinned. Little Peter, you have to quietly become stronger. I believe that in the near future, you will definitely be able to scare everyone to death, I mean amaze everyone.